Hey everybody, welcome back to the show, and we are continuing our replays of the Fearless Artist Marathon. If you missed it, on September 8th, we had an incredible marathon day of 11 hours, guest speakers from all over the industry talking about different topics. And today we have Antonia Paulus coming on. She is working in artist management. She has her own boutique agency in Copenhagen, and she has a ton of experience. She walked us through what's the difference between a booking agent and getting management, how you can think past just the next concert and plan for a future season, and also how to be a bit more strategic with the long-term vision for your music. It was a great episode. We have some great questions at the end too, so make sure you stick around to the end. Also coming up in the Fast Forward membership, we have a workshop around pitching, what makes a good pitch, how to get booked, how to make your pitch not just, hey, pick me, I want to play, and actually looking to collaborate and make a vision with the person that you're pitching to. If you want access to that, all you need to do is join Fast Forward. It's our monthly membership for musicians, and we have group calls every single month, monthly trainings, and an incredible community that we've built to over 50 musicians. If you're listening to this, you definitely want to check it out, and you can get on a call for free. All you need to do is DM us the word Fast Forward, and we will get you the next date for the meeting. Enjoy the episode. Please screenshot it, send it to your best friend, share it on your stories. It really helps us get the word out. And as always, thanks for listening. Hi there, and welcome to the Fearless Artist Podcast, where we empower classical musicians to build their own thriving careers. I'm your host, Michelle Lynn, and together with Deanna Petre, we teach artists to conquer the entrepreneurial side of their careers and create the futures they want. We are two freelance classical musicians who have lived and worked in Europe for a decade, and together we started the Fearless Artist Mastermind, a coaching company created to teach classical musicians how to overcome fear and take action on building their dream careers. In each episode, we will explore the intersection of artistry and entrepreneurship, teaching you the fearless mindset with practical steps and strategies to build a sustainable career. Get ready to build your own artistic brand, find a supportive community of musicians so that you don't have to figure out everything alone, and earn a living that you deserve. We believe that you can be a thriving artist and not a starving one, and we are redefining what it means to be a classical musician in the modern era. Welcome, Antonia Paulus. Today, Antonia is going to be talking about how to build a sustainable career through strategic management. And we just briefly exchanged now, and she's going to be telling us about the difference between management and booking in the classical music industry. She was previously working with an agency, IMG Artists, and has now co-founded her own boutique agency. Antonia, welcome. I know your Instagram is full of relevant issues that matter a lot to artists today, whether that's gender or racism or current events. So we're excited to hear your take on things and hear from your expertise.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, so the new thing for myself was really that I founded my new agency now, which is focusing on management mainly or only. So what I experienced in the past is that agencies do both or pretend to do both. They book concerts and they offer management, and it's mixed. The main problem here is that agencies only earn through bookings because they take a commission on concerts they book for you, artists. And the management is kind of not paid specifically. So I experienced that there's really a lack of management in many agencies. So, and I found this always strange because in the pop music, you have it divided. You have a booker and you have a manager. And I think it makes totally sense. I will tell you why in my lecture. And this is what I focus on now. So there will be two parts. The first part is the lecture, where I focus on explaining the difference between booking and management. And then there's a second part where you can participate in groups to discuss a little bit and reflect on what I have explained, and to maybe ask yourself if you are lacking management, what you are lacking, or what you would like to change maybe in the future, or what you expect from future agencies you might collaborate with. So I will share my presentation now. Great. So let's start. So we will have 4 points, key points in the lecture. The first is where I explain the difference between booking and management. Then I will talk about why long-term strategies, in my opinion, matter. And I will also talk a little bit about tools of sustainable management. And then I give you some case insight of 2 artists that I picked. So when I tell artists and they reach out to me and they ask, so what are you doing? What can you offer? And I tell them I do management. It's often really the question, what is management? And I'm a little bit surprised because somehow back in the days I thought it's clearer, but often there's really confusion of like when it's asked, is it PR or what can you do for me? So the difference is really booking is short term, like, you book concerts, you get a concert engagement, the agent negotiates the fee, and then you go and play there. Management is more about profile shaping, about a long-term strategy that you create for yourself as an artist. Of course, booking is super duper important because you need concerts to earn money and to have a career, actually. But it is based on management because you first have to think about what you want to do in your career and what should be offered by your agent. So the foundation is really built through the management. And we have the key elements of management, that is profile developing, strategy, positioning, communication, repertoire planning, and building networks. So the goal is really to create a sustainable artistic career rather than short-term engagements. Because what I've seen in the past is that agencies take on artists and they kind of throw them on the market and try to sell them. But there's no long-term strategy behind it. And then it can really fail because they don't know how to really sell them, or they have a short-term career, like a big boom, and then that's it, because it's not sustainable. And this is really something I would like to change, or to be part of that change in our industry. So booking is really about, booking concerts, or of course you have touring engagements, or you will be booked to festivals. Of course, it ensures like short-term income and visibility. And it's really about your schedule, like what is happening when, how does your season look like. Servicing is also involved. So everything until you are on stage, the agent will manage for you and book your flights and your rehearsal schedule. And of course, what is required is, the agents really need to have a very strong network. And they need to know all the intendants and all the orchestra managers and all the presenters. And of course, you will have a strong market presence and relationships. So this is booking, and that is what you will get through booking and your booking agents. And then you have the management. This is more long-term. You will set up a strategy to develop a strong profile. You shape your artistic identity. It's about long-term collaborations with different parts of our industry or different players in our industry. It's a strategic positioning in the market, not like, okay, you play here and there, but okay, where do you really want to be seen, why, and when? Also, it's a timing question. And it's also about that you really talk about plans for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, and not only what will happen next season, what can we book for you next season. So let's talk a bit more specific about these points. So the profile, the artistic identity and visibility. It is really about developing a clear profile in a way. Who are you? Which story do you want to tell about yourself? And what is really unique about yourself? It's really about your personality. It's about repertoire. It can be many things that you identify with. And it's about how to show that. I mean, this market is super crowded, and we all know that it's not so easy to sometimes remember artists or really see who's sticking out of this mass, so to say. So yeah, this is one point. So it's really about building credibility with promoters, media, and audience over time. And it's about to create a narrative, across the press text, photos, website, social media, everywhere, wherever it's communicated about you, it needs to show the same story and the same identity. This is the goal. And then it's really about to find the right repertoire and the right projects that can be connected with your identity that you really represent. So it's really to align repertoire choices also with your stage of career and where you stand also, your artistic level. It depends a bit where you stand in your career. So it can be about introducing new works or commissions, can be about shaping new projects with a story that you want to tell. It's about the long-term artistic vision rather than one-off opportunities. And then it's really important to show and to create a red thread between your own story, the right partnerships, your career goals, so that everybody can see the red thread and it really makes sense, because then people will remember you. So branding and positioning, I mean, these are tools now we need to take a look at. So it's about developing your own artistic brand. As I said, it needs to be shown everywhere, the same picture about you. The narrative is important, and also to identify a clear market where you want to be seen and you should be seen. So it's about the genre, the repertoire focus, the audience appeal, and that you really ensure the same narrative on all communication channels. And then it's about thinking about, okay, strategic partnerships. Whom do you really want to work with? For example, when we talk about repertoire, there are certain labels that are interesting for you. I mean, it might be the major labels because it's some themes that are very broad and, I don't know, catchy topics. But for example, if your focus lies on contemporary music or discoveries, maybe there are other labels that suit better. And it's the same with festivals and presenters and institutions, that you really see, okay, who is a good match for your identity, your profile, and who would be good to collaborate with. And then it's also, I mean, that is a little bit like the speaker you heard before about the career pacing. I think that's really a very important part also of the management, that you really have a good plan for the booking activities, like to avoid burnouts and to really stay in balance, to also guarantee some sustainability in your career. Because what often happens is you have so many ideas because you're so creative, and which is wonderful. But then sometimes it's simply too much. And I think the management should channel your ideas and say, okay, this is very good ideas, but this could wait for 3 years because we develop the career differently. And we don't do, like, for example, I don't know, 6 chamber music programs per season and 2 new commission works and so on. It can become too much. So this is really also the career planning in the sense of making a good timeline for achieving your goals. And then I thought I can give you a small example of artists. Like, I used to work with a Norwegian violinist and Hardanger fiddle player. And she was very successful in the Scandinavian market already, but kind of nobody knew about the instrument Hardanger fiddle in the past. So she really wanted to bring this instrument and the repertoire to the international market. So we said, okay, it's really nice because it's a nice instrument, it's a good repertoire, but how to tell the story? So what we did is we first thought about repertoire. This is something I like to do at the first place because it's the core. But so it's, okay, what is there for Hardanger fiddle? Do you play both instruments at one evening? All these questions. And then it was about what can we do with the repertoire? I mean, arrangements, new commissions. And once we created many programs and repertoire ideas, we came to her as a person and we thought, okay, we should find a narrative and how to sell her. So it was a lot about her heritage, Norway. People, for example, in Germany love to go to Norway to hike. So there's a whole tourism industry behind it. So we spread the word also in different media and magazines that is simply about traveling. But then, of course, we also approached the media and in the classical music industry. We came from all sides, and then suddenly presenters and festivals, they thought, oh, we somehow we know it. They thought she's everywhere already, but she wasn't. But then they started booking her because the narrative makes sense. Everybody knew, okay, we get this Norwegian, the Scandinavian feeling into our concert halls. It's nice repertoire. It's easy to explain. And then the audience could connect to this artist and to the repertoire. And we also had some lectures about the instrument and explained that. We had many videos on social media. So we came from all sides, also got her on a label. And then suddenly everybody liked the instrument and got to know about the instrument. And that was a case for myself where I saw that how important management is before you even start booking. And it took us almost 1 year to set this up. And this 1 year was, there were no bookings that we could earn from. And there I saw, okay, it is difficult for agencies to spend the time on management if you don't earn on it. So I understand it, but it is really important to do it. So, but that was a good case or example how it can work or should work. And then we have a very famous case. I just always mention her because I find it fascinating with Anne-Sophie Mutter, how she invents herself like every, let's say, 3 years new. I mean, of course, she was this prodigy and, a high-level violinist. But actually, especially in the last 10 years, you could see that it's always a special design of her dress. It's a foundation she's creating with developing new artists, young artists. Then she goes on tour with them. Suddenly chamber music projects with, artists like Trifonov and other young artists. Then suddenly she plays John Williams. So, and this is all planned. This is not just she wakes up and says, today I would like to play John Williams. There's really a management strategy behind it, and it's very well planned in advance. So I think there you can see that, and of course she's an incredible musician, but in my opinion, there are other violinists that are also on the same level. And also herself, she really needs to keep up and to plan and manage, have good management to stay on the market. So she's always an example I have in mind when it comes to management and strategic management. So far, do you have some questions? Because I would like to answer some questions or talk more about specific topics that you're interested in.
Yes, I do. So, Antonia, do you have booking agents on your staff or do you outsource them? Do you do the hiring of them? How does it work in terms of staffing?
Yeah, good question. So I don't have staff myself, but I collaborate with agencies. And one part of my work I do with artists is if they are, at the beginning of their career, we also reach out to agencies. So we identify the right agencies for them. We prepare a pitch, and then either I talk to them or they talk to them directly, or they have other people they work with and they talk to the agents. But I don't have booking agents myself in my agency.
Can you talk a bit more, Antonia, about the year that you were preparing this management strategy with your client and the risk involved with her not having any bookings for that year? I mean, at what point where's the tipping point for you in navigating that?
We started with the repertoire and program development for ourselves to make sure that we have everything ready. I mean, this is the first thing you need, of course, for booking. So this is how we started. And then we also, I mean, it's a question of order, but first we thought we need a CD label to have some outlets of the repertoire. So we prepared that pitch. But before that, we, of course, developed so everything went a bit parallelly, but it's about identifying the artist and what is so special about her as a person. Then the instrument was a big part of this planning because we had to think about how we present the instrument and to introduce it to the market, which is through repertoire, but also just through explaining, like, how does this instrument work? How does it look like? What is the story of the instrument? I mean, the history also in Norway. Yeah, and then we put it all together and had kind of a profile pitch, repertoire, programs, and also the whole visuals, like what she's wearing, how do we combine Nordic simplicity with Nordic traditional elements, of the Norwegian costumes. And then we took photos and videos, and then we spread it to the different different parties.
Hey everybody, real quick, I just want to say that if you are struggling to post on Instagram, first of all, you are not alone. Most musicians are sitting there scrolling and not knowing what they would actually post about. Second of all, if that's you, then I have a free gift for you. It is our free guide, 10 golden rules to posting on Instagram as a classical musician. If you follow these 10 rules, you will grow, you will get more followers, you will get more views, you will know what hashtags to use, you will write captions that are interesting, and you will build an audience. And guess what a bigger audience gives you? More concerts. That's right, everybody. So all you need to do is DM us on Instagram at the Fearless Artist Mastermind. Just write golden and we will send you our free guide. Hope you love it and thanks for listening. So how do you transition from booking your own concerts to getting management? Asked Joanne.
So if you have booking already, but
I think that's what she's saying. What point do you go from just being the booker to saying, no, I actually need to get management? And the second follow-up is, how do you recommend looking for management?
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally, of course, if you have, I don't want to say that there are no agencies that do both, right? So it is really about good communication with your agent, because I think it's also about that. What I think is lacking is the understanding about management and that you need it. And once you know that you need management, you can also approach your agent and say, listen, can we have a strategic talk about how I develop my programs? Or what do you think? Which repertoire should I present first? And where do you offer myself? Because somehow it's often a lack of communication and you don't get into these talks because the agents just book you. But I think you can also be proactive yourself and ask questions. And the questions is really, sometimes it's really interesting to ask, how do you sell me actually? What do you say to promote us? And it's interesting which answers, you will receive. Because I just had a case, actually, some artists came to me and asked, can you help me with some things? And they asked their managers and they couldn't answer the question. It was like, yeah, you are this a kind of musician and that's it. And that was really shocking for the artist. And I think it's also a work in progress together. If you are aware that you need that, you can also guide your agent a little bit or squeeze out some answers. So this is how you can work within your existing agency with your agent. And then you will see what they answer and if it's satisfying or not. And then, of course, if it's a little bit bigger agency, you could also reach out to other agents in the agency. So But I think it's important to ask questions.
That's very insightful. Yeah, thanks so much. Just like out of curiosity for everyone in the room, does anyone here currently have an agent? Does anyone here currently have management? My feeling is that most people don't work with agents in the room at all. I know Bernhard has talked a lot about being your own manager. So a lot of us have been doing like a DIY career. So just so I can get a sense of the room, if you guys want to use the chat, let me know. I see we have a couple questions. Gennady, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Antonia, for the insights. A question to you, Antonia. How do you choose the artists you want to work with? Do they need to have some prerequisites, or do you also start from scratch?
Yeah, it's super different because I have 3 ways how I work in my agency. So one is I have 2 artists at the moment, which is a long-term relationship. So we just keep on working as long as they want to work with me. And then I have some that I have agreements with only for example, 6 months, because we identify some specific topics and goals that they want to reach within that period. And some of them actually have agents. So I also work with their agencies together, which is very nice to collaborate. And if they also accept that somebody from outside comes in. So it's sometimes about, I want to be more international, or I need a focus here and there. So we have different topics. And that can be really like super experienced artists that want to change their careers, or that had some difficulties because of, I don't know, health or other experiences. And it can be also very young musicians. And then I do workshops, which is like a 2-day workshop where we really start working on shaping the profile and work on action points, so that it's a little bit like being your own manager in a way that you have some clear action points after these 2 days. You can also do yourself, or I help a little bit afterwards, or the agent or whoever is in the team. So it's very different. I just gave a workshop for an artist that was 16 years with Harrison Parrott. So super experienced, very good conductor. And but he needed some other input because of life changes, and also he doesn't see himself anymore with one of these big agencies, and he wanted to see how he can change that and which options there are. And then I also work with very young musicians. So it's really a very broad range. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Antonia. Dimitri?
Yes, thank you very much also for your presentation, and also for explaining the difference between a booking agency and a management agency, because I think that was something that was maybe not so clear to me, because when I was looking like for a new agency, let's say, most of the things you find online are booking agencies, which often offer, basic management advice, which is often quite limited actually. Or you find like the press relation agencies. So a management agency like yours is not something I've encountered so much, as at least in Europe. Is it something that is widespread, or it's still like a niche kind of?
Yeah, I would say not so many do it, because I must say also myself, I wasn't so sure if it will work, because it is new, and I wasn't sure if artists will understand or would like to have that. So it was a bit risky to start this agency, but it was an urge, because I couldn't see it anymore that this is not there in the agency. And I must say, because Michelle didn't mention that I had my own agency with a partner for 10 years between IMG and now. And that was where I have to admit that I also felt, okay, it's of course an economical question that you can't do maybe so much management, because as I said, with this one artist, it was 1 year of almost no income. And what of course happened all the time is that, you build up an artist for 3 years, a very young one, and then everything is nice and the booking starts, and then they leave you for Harrison Parrott or something. So, and then you didn't earn anything, but you did all the groundwork. And that is really tough, for agents. So, but yeah, I would say there are not so many who only focus on management. But I hope it will change.
Yes, thank you, because I think it's very, very important, useful.
Can you just quickly expand on that before we go to Peen? But if they leave for Harrison Parrott, is Harrison Parrott functioning as the booker or as the manager or both, or they just went for
Both. It's a very big agency, and I mean, there it really depends on the manager, how much management is done. I mean, I've also seen that at IMG Artists, which is a comparable big agency, where they're brilliant artist managers, but some are also more bookers, but call themselves managers, and this is simply wrong. So it's a bit, you have to be a bit lucky to get the right managers who do both.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, just maybe a side note, just to explain. For example, in the US, because IMG is an American agency, and in their US department, they have only bookers on top so they work on certain territories in the US, and they have a list of orchestras, and then they have the artists they are booking, and they have the fee level and the repertoire, and then they just call the orchestras and say, this is this artist, do you want to book him? This is the fee, this is the repertoire. But this is not how it's working in Europe at all, because there it's more this mixture. But in the US, they sometimes make this difference, which is interesting. But that you couldn't do here in Europe. Nobody would take you serious if you make such a call.
And why is that? Just briefly?
I think because they want a broader picture that you can explain why this violinist is so fantastic and why it's so unique. And it's not, they want this different conversation. And there it's really, in the US, it's really like selling like a product with certain agencies, not all the agencies, but they divide it, for example.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to dig into that, but we're going to keep going with the questions. Peen?
Yes, thank you. Hi.
Hi.
I really liked your presentation already. I have a question about how can you remain your red thread in your repertoire with different genres? Because I'm an opera singer, but I also do lead, but my main goal is opera. How can I keep telling my same story to my audience online and initially to also gain a management in the future?
Yeah, I think, of course, it's two different fields, but the connecting point is you as a person. So, of course, you show something in your identity and your personality that is unique. And this you can show on both fields. It doesn't matter on which field. But of course, it's two markets, so to say. So you can't really combine. I mean, you could combine repertoire, of course, if you say you take some repertoire from the like areas or something, you perform in a different setup or something, and you can make a connection there. Of course, if you have, for example, a contemporary focus, this is also one identity you can show on both sides. So there are ways to connect your repertoire ideas also through projects or programming of like recitals or something. I mean, there you can show it, I would say.
Yes. Thank you.
Naringa, you're next.
Yes, I want to say thank you. That was very interesting and very, very useful. So because you were mentioning IMG Artists, I, of course, actually had one conversation with one person from IMG Artists on the topic of how much likely a person at the start of their career will get the contract with the agency. And that person told me about the very risky investments, etc. And I just wanted to ask what a person at the start of their career should already have developed or know very for sure that they would have more likely an opportunity to collaborate with an agency.
Yes. I mean, this is something I do with some of the young artists because it is really the points I was talking about. When I got someone, like an application from an artist back in the days with my own agency, I could see how reflected they were about, for example, repertoire. Sometimes you ask them, what is your strength? And you should be able to answer that, for example, right? like when we are now at opera or also in any instrument, or also conductor is super important. So what is your strength? You should be able to answer this right away. And then it's also about some kind of idea what you really want to show. I mean, repertoire wise, but also you as a person. You have to be quite self-confident about what your vision is. So there should be a vision, because there are too many, let's say, pianists that you can say on a very high level that you say, I'm a good pianist. I mean, that is something they can hear, and it's also a question of taste, of course, always, but it's about why should they sign you? So it's really about be really self-confident about what you really want to play, what you want to show. It can be also broader topics like, why do you want to be an artist, and what do you want to give to the audience? Does educational programs matter to you? Is there other topics that are important to you? I don't know, politics or certain things that you can really shape into a message, that because it's about, then they can say, okay, there's maybe one point they see that they don't have on the roster yet and that they can sell. But the most important thing is really the repertoire, I would say, because if you are a pianist, they can't have, I mean, it depends on the size of the agency, but you can't have, if you are a mid-size agency, you can't have more than, I don't know, 3 specialists. I mean, you can't sell them simply. So if this is your focus, and then they say, but we have these 3 pianists already, and it's all about Bach, and we can't take you on. And then, of course, I would also recommend to pre-scan the agencies in terms of, for example, if you're a pianist, how many pianists do they already have on the roster? And maybe to really also see, inform yourself a little bit about their artistic profile. Because if it's double, it's very unlikely that you are assigned, unless you are a totally different generation or female, male, it can be different things. But yeah, I think it's really about getting to be sure what you want to show and what you are good at. And don't be shy to tell that, because this is what they need to hear.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonia. Just in the chat, Kelly's asking, how do you actually get in front of your management? Do you just start cold pitching them and tell them your story, your pitch? How do you recommend getting in front of the right people?
Yeah, I would definitely prepare a proper pitch. It can be a PDF. It can be a very nice email. It can be a newsletter style. And there you should have it very clear in a good structure, very appealing when it comes to visuals. Like, but then, to have biography, video links, super important because they need to listen to you. But also, of course, nice photos, maybe some program ideas, your strongest repertoire. Yeah, so this is something I could also prepare a list if it's interesting for the group to share what should be in a pitch.
Yeah, I think it's really beneficial.
Yeah, and it is so important to always have in mind that nobody has time. So it needs to be so clear and on point that it's understandable within 5 minutes. And This is the challenge, of course. It's not so easy. But that nobody will read super long emails or click their ways through hundreds of links. This is very important.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. And also the pitch that you're describing is kind of my impression, what the manager would help you figure out, like the 1 year that you spent with your client discerning it together. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's good to get help because it's also never easy to talk about yourself and to present yourself. I mean, because people from outside see also what you are strong at, or they have a direct impression about what they like about you or not like, or what you shouldn't talk too much about, maybe. So it's always good to have someone to reflect a little bit on your ideas. It can be a family member, it can be a very good friend, or it doesn't have to be only a professionals. I think it's about really be in communication even before and to prepare the pitch.
You mentioned a 2-day workshop. Is there a way that people can work with you in a broader sense just to kind of get their teeth into these kind of subjects and concepts? I think we've got people all across the board today. Some people have management agents. Some people have never done anything like this. So what's the first step for people?
I would say that a workshop is the best because there, we can figure out what is needed. Ideally, this is clear with a conversation on the phone before the workshop, and then there's an agenda, and we work together also on the agenda to make sure that the most important points are there. But then it's really, I always say it's a little bit like therapy, this workshop, because you talk about yourself the whole time. I ask you thousands of questions, and then I put it all together, and then there will be a result with action points, but also with things that I or somebody else can help you with, keep on working on. And for example, if it's about, if the main goal is to find an agency, which I would anyway recommend to anyone who wants to start a career, you need somehow an agency or partners. It doesn't have to be an agency. It can be also different individuals, maybe. That's also something we discussed. But then it's really about preparing the profile, the identity it's really, I will ask you also, I don't know, about hobbies, about your family, about what drives you in life. And then we put something together, and it's really interesting because there's always a story, because everyone has a story. Doesn't matter what. It can be the heritage, it can be an interesting hobby, it can be a crazy story from the past. I don't know, I just had a conductor who used to be a punk in his teenage life and he was actually a musician in a punk band. So his whole career, and we identified that he has this do-it-yourself mentality. He doesn't want to be a Kapellmeister. He wants to do it himself. And he came quite far with that. And it's really interesting. And that's, of course, this story, because it's super funny. Not every classical musician used to be a punk. And he has this mentality still, and he even colors his hair every year in a different color. And it's not because he thinks it's a nice PR tool, it's just himself. That's important, that it's authentic. So, I also like punk classic. So we worked a lot on this topic. So everybody has a story that you don't see immediately, and I think you can really make something out of that. So this can be first steps, but again, you can also already came quite far in your career, but now I want to change this, or I just discovered this repertoire and I want to have a strong focus on that now. And how can I do this? Because everybody knows me for my Bach interpretation, but now it's suddenly whatever, a Debussy. And then it's like, okay, how can I do that? Or I have this new trio, I just found it and I want to be stronger in chamber music. Or I don't know, musicians that start to conduct. So there can be different times in your career where you need some rebranding and reflecting your goal.
I know we're almost at time. If anyone has any other questions, please put them in the chat. There's a lot of great information here. Just in terms of investment, I know booking agents usually take a commission on
yes
they book for you. Could you tell us about the management side and how that works?
Yes, so I work on an hourly rate, simply, and the workshops has a one fee that I ask for, and otherwise it's an hourly rate. And with the long-term relations I have, we agree on a certain amount of hours per month, and then we work like that. Yeah,
I think that's so helpful. Any other questions? Have I missed anyone?
Is there, because we didn't come, now it's only 9 minutes left, but is there anyone who would like to share? Because we didn't do my nice group discussion.
I'm so sorry, Antonia.
No problem. But is there anyone who would like to share maybe a little bit of her or his path, like where you had the feeling you needed more than booking, or where strategic management could help by your own experience? Is there anyone who would like to share something in the group?
Dimitri,
No.
go ahead. I'm sure he has something to say.
Did you call me? Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that you wanted to share a little bit.
Yes, I mean, I was working with an agency, like a booking agency, for some years, and they also had an aspect where it involved management. So I know that we worked a little bit on, as you said, like on a more long-term strategy. But I think the problem with them is that they didn't really have any of the actual connections with, concert presenters and festivals and whatsoever. So we had a good management, but it wasn't working because we couldn't connect then with the people who would book me. So as a booking agency, they weren't working very well, I must say. So do you, because I know I'm from France, and I know that in France, like many, presenters and big festivals and whatsoever, they actually sort of exclusively work with certain booking agencies, like they don't really want to be pitched by independent artists, and they just work with some agencies and they get sort of the people from these rosters every year. So like, is there like a proper way to combine, like if you have a good management strategy, like how do you then get to actual action into getting, the concerts from the presenters and from the booking agents, for example? Yeah.
Like, for example, what I do is, it's not, I always say that I don't do booking at all, which is not really the truth, because, I try to avoid it too much because it's very time consuming, and my clients pay me for something else. But for example, what I just did is I work for a conductor who commissioned a piece by a famous composer. And I had the idea to collaborate. I, made the contact with the publisher. Then I discussed with the publisher, where should we find co-commission partners? And for example, that I did, which is also booking, because we found co-commission partners with big institutions. I negotiated the co-commission fee, and we booked a concert to perform the local premiere. So this is also booking, but very strongly connected with the management thought and the management idea behind it. What I also do is, and which I think makes sense, like I also mentioned before in my lecture, that it is, of course, about making connections with certain parties. So what could be also an idea, like, for example, I communicate with neighbors to make a connection. Or if we create a super nice artist in residence program, I would also call certain presenters, festivals to pitch that idea. So management doesn't mean that you don't communicate with promoters. To the contrary, you should do it, but not like this normal booking calls, like just, would you like to book this artist? Like, because it's a nice artist. So it's very specific projects. What I also work with, it's a like super old fashioned, but a newsletter. I send. We put together. For example, there's an upcoming CD or something we can tell, and then I present the artist in this newsletter, the latest projects, like a very nice overview, which is not like, do you want to book him next season? But to inform the promoters and festivals about this artist I'm currently working with. So this is, for example, what I also do with these artists that I work with for 6 months or something. So, and if they are represented with by an agency, we talk about it, but they often say, no, just go ahead. And it's different territories also where it makes sense. And then I just send it in the name of Paulus Music, and then make sure to get in collaboration with this agency or something. So there are tools where I'm communicating about the artist, but it's not this, normal booking activities. But
it's a lot of working networking.
So it can be,
connections.
Yes, exactly. And I also work with a French pianist, and it is super. The French market works really differently. But we can see an effect of just communicating all the time, so to say, although I'm not doing real booking. So it's there are different tools you could use. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Antonia. This has been wonderful. It's been very informative, very helpful. I'm sure many people will be reaching out to you after this. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we thank you for your time?
No, I'm so sorry. It's now we didn't do the group activity, but I think it was maybe more important to answer some questions. Please feel free to reach out if you have further questions. I'm happy to answer them. And I wish you a very nice day with all these nice speakers.
Thank you so much. We will have her Instagram in the replay email, everyone. So make sure you follow Antonia. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for listening to the Fearless Artist Podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to share this podcast with a friend. To join our membership or one of our coaching programs, visit our website at thefearlessartistmastermind.com.
This episode was produced by Pokey Huang at phMediaStudios in New York City. We're Deanna and Michelle, encouraging you to create your own opportunities and to go after what you want. You have what it takes to build the career of your dreams. Until next time, be fearless.